Hey everyone, it's Ben from Wishlist Member, and today we have the pleasure of talking to Jan from List Building School and also Virtual Summit Mastery. He's going to be showing us, giving us a peek behind the scenes of his membership site that he built with Wishlist Member, and he's going to share some insights and things that he's learned along the way. So, Jan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So, can you tell us just a little bit about the site that you're going to be showing us today, kind of what its purpose is, when did you start it, or how did you acquire it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we are seeing today is List Building School, which is my virtual summit on email marketing. And it's essentially like a physical conference taken online. I've interviewed 23, 24 experts on email marketing. And the concept of a virtual summit is that you give those interviews away for free for a limited period of time, just as you would have with a physical conference. There's a start date and an end date. And then after the summit has ended, you try to upsell people to a membership area so that they can catch the replays and they can get some fancy bonuses and stuff like that. And that's where Wishlist comes in, because that membership area is built in Wishlist. Thrivecart is a payment gateway that integrates very, very nicely. And yeah, that's the overall concept, just free information and then leading up to a membership pitch.
Awesome. So, and yeah, we're certainly going to look at it. And for you watching the video, you can actually see it. If you're listening to audio, you might want to check the video. We'll put that in the show notes. But Jan, I know that you also have Virtual Summit Mastery, and that's not what we're looking at today, but that's where you teach how to build these sorts of virtual sites, right, with Wishlist Member. And so the site that we're looking at is actually a virtual summit that you're doing what you teach. So is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like to use myself as a guinea pig. So I'll be showing you a course platform that is not fully built. It's not fully polished yet. And that's why I'm glad that I have you and John on this call, because you can tear it apart and you can tell me what I could do better so I can deliver better experience to the members. Wishlist Member is one of the recommended plugins that I have inside Virtual Summit Mastery, which is a course that I've taken over from my friend Navid Moasses. And it is a full online study program that teaches you how to run these virtual conferences.
Gotcha. So that kind of leads into one of my first questions is, why did you choose to use like WordPress and Wishlist versus going to some other platform that's maybe like a SaaS platform? You know, Kajabi, Teachable, there's a lot of things like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is one that, for me, it's just based on pure experience. I'm a WordPress developer by trade. That's how I started in 2013 when I became self-employed. And I just know WordPress best. And what I like about this platform is, first of all, the flexibility. Like, you can extend it in any way or form, whereas with Kajabi and Teachable, they're great platforms. But if you know how to tweak WordPress and if you know your way around building a WordPress website and managing it, I think it's clear that you have way more flexibility and freedom of choice on how to build an epic membership area and an epic website. And the second reason is I own my membership. I own the Cloudways the website is hosted on Cloudways, so I own the server. It's not a shared hosting. It's not that somebody else would control my access and could shut down my account because they think I violated some fancy AGBs or some algorithm went wrong, like Facebook ads do all the time. I want to own this stuff because I put a lot of work in those virtual events, and anybody who builds a membership area puts in their heart, blood, and tears into the membership area. So I think we should be in full control.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all those points. So, cool. Well, let's go ahead and just take a look at your site. If you want to give us a quick overview of it, we'll kind of walk through things and go from there. So if you want to share your screen.
Sounds great. Let me do that. So let me first go to the landing page so that you get an overview of what you're actually looking at.
Yeah.
Let me know if the screen is up and if the text is readable.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. So essentially, this is the main registration page, listbuilding.school. Right now, it's running from August 8th to 12th, but I will turn it into an evergreen format when those days are over. So anybody who's watching this after those dates can still see the site in action and can still get free access to everything. And essentially, it is a series of interviews with these speakers, Dennis Hughes, Sarah Morgan, Chandler Bolt, and so on. So some pretty big names in there. Cynthia is one of my Virtual Summit Mastery students She did a summit that recently got 23,000 attendees and grossed in 300,000 in revenue.
That's awesome.
And that's a fantastic case study. And that's also a point to prove how powerful Wishlist Member is, because you want to be able to deal with numbers like this. You want to be able to, so she had, I think, 2,400 something all access pass sales. And when you enroll 2,400 people into a membership area over the course of, let's say, 10 days, you want to make sure that the membership area is stable and can handle it, right? I mean, imagine the customer support requests that come in if something is broken. And that's why I love Wishlist.
Oh, for sure. And so, speaking of that, you mentioned you host this site on Cloudways. And so you found that to be pretty reputable for handling high traffic as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Cloudways has been my go-to since 2015. The biggest summits I had on there had, I think, about 80,000 page views on a single day. And what I love about that is that you can scale the server before the summit starts, because you see roughly how many attendees you have and you see who is promoting the summit. So you have a baseline estimate of how much traffic you would expect.
Right.
And you just scale it up front. And now they added Cloudflare Enterprise recently as an add-on service for, I think, $5 a month or something, or $10. And that just scales into oblivion, really. I have no issues with that whatsoever.
Good to hear. So there's probably a lot of people who maybe aren't so technical. I've used Cloudways, and I think it's really easy to use, but they hear about like scaling all these servers and things to support the traffic. If somebody's, not super technical, they know how to use the computer and stuff, but would you say that that's, I mean, obviously using Wishlist and WordPress is something you can learn, but if somebody's kind of leaning towards a SaaS platform to kind of run something like this, would you say that it's actually not as hard as people would think it is?
I think if you are really not technical and you can turn on the computer and that's about it, go with the SaaS platform. Make your life as easy as possible. Because with Cloudways, you have to have a little bit of understanding of how to connect a domain and how to update records for the domain and how to connect an email address and things like that. If you aren't scared of WordPress, if you aren't scared of Wishlist, I think Cloudways is a fantastic choice, and it gives you a really good bang for the buck.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times that's what we kind of tell people too. But let me ask you this, and just to get your perspective on it, we have our own opinions, but if somebody is planning to actually scale this to, replace either their full-time income or whatever. And we've heard from a lot of people, they say, well, I'm going to start on this other platform, and then once I get some success, then I'll move everything over. Would you think that's a good idea? Or, I mean, I've already kind of got your answer there. Feel free to explain.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult, because as soon as you have a membership area, you have all the login details, for example. And I've been through the process of moving. When I took over Virtual Summit Mastery, it came with a membership area that's unfortunately not built in Wishlist. And I had about 800 people in there that were connected to the old ActiveCampaign account from the old owner. And I had to move them to my Convertkit account. And the membership logins were connected to their CRM entries. That was the most painful 2 months I have ever seen in my life, because you just mess up with logins, you mess up with permissions all the time. So I would say, if you want to run a summit and make or memberships in general, make memberships your full-time income, which is totally possible with the model that I'm showing you today. Be aware that if you see success, you will deal with hundreds of members. And it's not easy to move that amount of data easily. It's possible technically, for sure. But if you are starting with Kajabi, for example, be prepared to host the next 2 or 3 summits on Kajabi as well, and rather refine that platform and learn that platform. Same goes for Wishlist. If you want to learn how to use Wishlist best and how to run a virtual summit on WordPress, there are templates that make this very easy. There's obviously Virtual Summit Mastery that can help you with this. And then you can refine and you sharpen the skills for the platform that you're using. I wouldn't switch after just the first summit, because you build the platform once and then you can just clone it for the next summit. You just copy and paste everything. I'm copying this layout for like 2 or 3 years or now. It's way overdue for a design upgrade.
Sure. John, were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to jump in, like, even as a former developer, doing that kind of thing is a little it's a little scary. And even when you know all the technical stuff behind it, and I was talking with Mike, our product lead for Wishlist member, the other day, and he was doing a migration, and even he's been a developer for 15 years, one of the smartest guys I know, and he was still like antsy about the whole thing. So
yeah, don't do
great
it
advice.
usually. Yeah, if you can avoid it, don't migrate membership websites. It's just a pain in the
and even we're dealing with a little bit of this internally, where we kind of switched our billing system, and so there's some subscriptions, and I'll ask you about that in a second. But it's really hard to move that credit card data if you can. So it's just, I would always recommend to start on the right platform just from the beginning, even if it costs a little bit more. It's a little bit more technical, and you might have to get some help. But like Jan said, there's templates out there that you can use. So kind of, I understand that on this you have a free ticket now, right?
Yeah.
Everything's free, and if there's something else you want to cover on this page, feel free to. We can look at that first. But if somebody actually wants to get access to it, would you kind of show us how that works?
Absolutely. So the main goal for a virtual summit following this method I'm showing is to build an email list. That is why everything is free. And you click on any Get My Free Ticket Now button, a pop-up form comes up, you enter your email address, you tick those annoying GDPR boxes that I have to confirm to because I'm in Germany, and then you get redirected to a one-time offer page. And essentially, I can't show that, unfortunately, because it has deadline funnel on it, and deadline funnel is in the browser right now. And essentially, it is a one-time offer to the membership. So I pitch directly when somebody signs up to ride that wave of endorphins that they've just signed up for something cool. They are excited about seeing the sessions. And then I pitch them with a 10-minute countdown timer on this page, which again, imagine a countdown timer bar right here. Sure. And imagine the price being $97 instead of $127. So there's a $30 discount. That is essentially the one-time offer page that people see directly after subscribing to the free ticket. They get added to an email sequence, of course. And then if somebody is super eager, they can't wait, they can grab the ticket and they can get access to some sessions I have already recorded and get some bonuses along the way too. And that's where then ThriveCard comes in. So they get then taken to a checkout page, which is just a regular payment page where I have embedded the ThriveCard checkout form. And ThriveCard then connects to Wishlist and adds the members to the Wishlist membership levels that I have set up. And if somebody buys the bump offer, I have yet to set up the access level for that. That's what I meant with unpolished. It's still work in progress.
Sure.
But essentially, ThriveCard then handles this automatically. Wishlist sends out the notification that they have been onboarded to the membership and that the account has been created and things like that. And then they are effectively premium pass holders of List Building School and can see the sessions that are there at their convenience.
Okay, very cool. And so if you want to go back to that page you were just showing us before the order form, and thank you for showing us that it was ThriveCart, because I'm sure people are going to want to know, well, how do you actually collect the payment? It's done through ThriveCart, and there's other integrations that Wishlist has where you can take the payments and then give them access to a membership. But just to kind of touch on this, we can see here all the things that Jan is giving them access to for just a one-time payment of 97 or 127. It could be, you can test different prices here. How did you kind of come up with this list of stuff? Have you kind of tested this? Is it just from experience, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is mostly from experience because I've been doing these events since 2015. So I have some feeling of what makes a good bonus or not. One thing that is always included is, of course, the video replays and the audio formats so that people can download an MP3 file and listen to the session on the go. What is always super well received are those session notes. And those are not transcripts. Essentially, they are boiled down versions of the transcript where my team and I pull out just the most important pieces that a speaker shared during an interview. So that when somebody wants to see the session on privacy, for example, and how you get your opt-in forms compliant, but they don't have time to watch a 45-minute interview, they download this session note PDF and get the gist in 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't know who said this, but I remember reading this or hearing it somewhere that people aren't paying for more information. They're actually paying for less information because they want the answers. They want the actionable here's what you need to do. And I know that's what you're offering here and why it's so successful. So really cool. So after somebody, and let's say somebody accepts this offer or doesn't, is there like a continuity that is like a recurring, or is all of this actually just one-time payments?
That depends on the offer that you have. For this summit, it's just a one-time offer, just one-time payment. I have seen summits, and I'm currently co-organizing one where we'll have a membership offer next to that. That is, I think it's actually in Teachable, where the summit hosts have set up this membership area that they already had, and then they want to run a virtual summit to build that audience and to drive more people to it. One thing that I would love to clarify is that I think anybody can host these summits, because you don't have to be an expert in the summit topic. You just have to be curious about it. Yeah. I'm by no means an email marketing expert. When I think about Ollie Gardner, the co-founder from Unbounce, for example, or when I think about Jason Van Orden, who has been doing email marketing and online courses since 2011, he's actually one of the guys who got me personally started with this membership course back in the day. Wow. They all know way more about me, but I know enough to ask stupid questions in those interviews. And I'm just putting myself in the shoes of the attendees, really. And I think about, okay, I have this online business that I want to grow, and I know that email marketing has to be a part of this. What do I want to learn myself? What problems do I face myself every single day? Because I am not the only one who wants to have a bigger email list and wants to make more money when he sends newsletters. Everybody has, let's say, 500,000, 700 or 2,000 people on their email list. And every time they send out the newsletter, they cross the fingers and hold the air. Yeah. And wish for people to buy, and they wait for the PayPal and Stripe notifications, and then crickets. Nothing happens. I'm not the only one with this issue, and I think that's the beauty of summits. You just bring together a group of people who can speak about the problems that you want to create content about, and you are not the one who brings the expertise, but the speakers are.
Wow, that's I hope everyone was listening to that. So we're going to clip that, I'm sure, share that on social media or something. But that's so true. You don't have to be the expert. And even if you're teaching like just a course, even if you're not doing a virtual summit like this, you don't have to be the best or the most knowledgeable person about the subject. You just have to know more than whoever you're teaching. So, but this method is even easier, what Jan's showing here, because you bring in actual experts and you interview them. Just like he said, if you have an interest, you can ask the questions. I recognize a lot of these people, and so that's really cool that you have these experts. How did you get these people to participate in this? And then, any tips for people listening if they're trying to find experts for their virtual summit?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Most of them are, by now, I've been doing this for 9 years right now. They are part of my social networks anyways, and I've been in touch with them. Right. So it was quite an easy ask. One person that wasn't an easy ask is this dude right here, Donald Robertson. He's a Wall Street Journal best-selling author on Stoicism. Wow. And I wanted to have him on the summit because I think as online entrepreneurs, we have to know how we deal with stress and how we deal with outside influences that impact us. And I just personally found that Stoicism helps me deal with that. So I wanted to have him on the summit. And I'm just pulling up a presentation right now that I put onto the screen to showcase how I go about finding those speakers. So first of all, I mentioned that the baseline is identifying the topics. What do I want to speak about at that virtual summit that I'm putting together? And then when I have those topics, I know roughly who are the biggest names in the industry who constantly get interviewed, who constantly speak about those topics. So this is my summit in a weekend keynote or presentation that I give every once in a while. And what I share in there is that you want to list at least 50 leaders who can speak about the topics you want to cover. And I personally just go to podcasts. I think about email marketing. Okay, what are the biggest digital marketing podcasts and who speaks about email marketing? Who is already getting interviewed on those podcasts? Because I know that those people who get interviewed, first of all, they should be good at interviewing. I can just listen to their session on a podcast and see if I think they meet my quality criteria, if I have something like that, if they actually tell something that makes sense. And then also what is really, really good is that those people understand the power of exposure. So you would be surprised how many people join a summit for free and promote it for free, and then maybe you set up an affiliate program around this. But you don't have to pay most of the speakers, actually. And let me see if I can find one of the Twitter exchanges that I did with Rand Fishkin and how I got Rand to speak on one of my summits. I actually got his email address on Twitter within like 10 minutes or something like that. And it's just the most frustrating thing is that it comes back to being genuinely interested in another human being. So this is the Twitter conversation. I saw him on a live stream with my friend Bridget, and I saw that there was like 5 people watching live on YouTube. So I thought, okay, let's just keep it in the background, keep it running, so that Bridget has one more viewer and Rand sees there's one more person who's staying with them. And then at some point, they opened a Q&A session, and I listened in and out to that live stream, and then Rand asked the attendees who were watching to shoot their questions at them. And I just did that. I asked a genuine question about audience research or something like that. He's now focused on Spark Toro, so I made sure that it was in his expertise. Mm-hmm. And then when that live stream is over and he actually picked my question, I took it to Twitter. I shared the replay on Twitter. I tagged Rand. I probably should have tagged Bridget as well. And then he replied instantly. And you can just follow the conversation. I just added value to the interview that he was giving, made him show his expertise on the live stream, so that when people watch the replay, they see he actually knows what he's talking about and he can react impromptu to live questions. And then I asked him, if you're open to it, I'd really love to invite you to my next summit. Would surely create another spike in Google Analytics, tying it back to the question that I asked. And boom, there's his email address.
And I love that. And so the reason I asked this question, because I just know that somebody who's watching this and they're thinking about doing a virtual summit, and I know this is supposed to also talk a lot about how Wishlist is being used, but still, this is an important question, because how do you get the experts for the summit?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have the networks. They haven't been doing it for 9 years like you. But this, like what you just saw, what you're watching here, everyone, this Twitter exchange and what Jan just explained, this isn't, you don't need 9 years of connections to do this. So I love that.
The one thing that I see work over and over again is you just don't jump into the pitch on the first message.
Yeah.
Like when we are on social right now and we are somewhat famous in our industry, I still consider myself a regular dude, but people for some reason are intimidated to approach me. I get pitched all the time from people who want me to try their product, from people who want to do a collaboration with me. I've never heard about them. They send me a tweet, Twitter DM, they send me a LinkedIn connection request, and the first line is, hey, I would love for you to check out my B2B email automation marketing platform, blah, 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 something that is clearly not relevant for virtual events.
Yeah.
And by just being genuinely interested, adding to conversations that are already going on and making people look good, you set yourself apart.
Yeah, that's really true. And I'm sure, especially when you're trying to find an expert, what you said about going to an interview that they're on or like a live stream and asking a actually good question, that probably goes a long way in establishing.
Yeah. But buy their book, leave a video review on Amazon. I have it here. Yeah. 1 sec. This is when I reached out to Donald Robertson. I bought his book beforehand, How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. And then I made sure I left a raving review after I actually read it, so that I could have a conversation with Donald about the book. And then after 2 or 3 days of back and forth, I pitched him on being at the summit.
So pretty much to sum all this down, what you're saying is be genuine and actually, try to create some value for them as well.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I give you the slides of this summit in a weekend presentation so that we can embed that below the replay of this webinar.
Oh, I appreciate that, and I'm sure the audience will too. So yeah, let's go back to the site, and we kind of showed all the different things that people are getting. One final thing to point out on that too is that how do you deliver some of these things? And I'm sure you're going to show us like the videos and how all that's there, but these other things, with these downloads, is it through Wishlist? How does that kind of work?
It's fully based on Wishlist. So every speaker has their own lesson I set up the entire thing as a course, inside Course Cure, and then protected by a wishlist member access level.
Mhm.
And every day is a module, every speaker is a lesson. And then I have one module for bonuses that I'm about to build, where, for example, the Notion template to manage your email newsletter, it's going to be a link to a Notion template that everybody can copy into their own account, plus a video of how to use it. This is a look over my shoulder for writing emails using AI, will be a video with a link to Jasper.ai. That's obviously an affiliate link, so I can reap more revenue from this event.
Yeah.
The email templates, they will be a read-only Google document, so that everybody can just make a copy of a Google Doc and then customize the templates for themselves. This is just another membership area. Oh, there's a typo. Another membership area login that can be automated through Convertkit and the membership plugin that I'm using there. And then this will be a live webinar that will be embedded in the Wishlist membership area.
Very cool. And so do you have any tips for people who may be trying to come up with bonuses? I guess a lot of this stuff is just content that you've either created specifically for this, or maybe some of it's a little bit reused. And so that's just, okay.
The best tip for that, sorry to cut you off, is ask your speakers. What can your speakers throw in the mix? When you run a virtual summit, you have the benefit of having 20 or how many ever experts who want to throw in something into the bonuses section. Ask your sponsors. We haven't even talked about monetizing a summit through sponsors. So there are tons of ways you can create bonuses. Just make sure they are relevant for the topics that are covered and that they go a little bit deeper into what the summit sessions deliver.
Very cool. So after this page, after this step, is there something else after this, or do they actually get access at that point?
At that point, so they get taken to this checkout page. They enter their credentials. Hopefully, they tick the box for the bump, because that's a really great offer. And then they get access to the membership area. So they will be taken to a course page. I can actually show that.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the backend, tons of stuff going on that we can talk about. And essentially, they get redirected to a login page. And then when they sign up, they see the course page like this, where they have access to, right now, 13 lessons, but I'm updating this every day.
Sure. Cool. So where do you want to start, I guess?
Should we just start on this page right here? Because there is... Course Cure also comes with this course overview, but I'm not using that page because I just have one course, so it doesn't make sense to have anything there. And what I can do is I can just walk people through how I've structured this thing. So when you go to that's an autoplay. When you go to start course, essentially you start in day one with the 4 lessons. And those are just 4 speakers, and the layout is built in Elementor, so it's very easy to confirm. And you may love or hate Elementor. Everybody has their own preference for page builders. All the craze these days. I don't love it, but I use it most often. I'm most familiar with it.
Yeah.
And then you build these layouts.
And so this is what we're looking at on the left and everything. That's from Course Cure, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I obviously recognize that. And so that's pretty much built in. And then what Jan's saying is that the video and then all of the other download links that he has, he's building that with Elementor. So he can customize it. One question that I have is, with these virtual summits, we're seeing the videos here. So is a lot of this pre-recorded and there's some live stuff as well?
Yeah. It's a mix. And if somebody's running a summit for the first time, I recommend to do most of the stuff pre-recorded, because you'll just have an easier time organizing everything.
Yeah.
At this point, I just have live stuff for sponsors most of the time.
Gotcha. And so these are just videos that are embedded from Vimeo or YouTube or wherever you're hosting. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is pretty straightforward, so I'm not sure there's a lot to touch on here.
It's not rocket science, and that's why I'm glad we are having this webinar, is because everybody thinks virtual summits are so super complicated to create, and everybody's worried about, oh, it's so difficult and the tech is so overwhelming and I need to have all these different tools.
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
No, it's pretty much record a video and then upload it into CourseCure, and
Right.
and
And for
that's
the live delivery, we can talk about that in a minute after we finish the membership area. When you run a summit live, you just throw in a live chat, like chat role next to it. Make sure that the speakers know to check in 2 or 3 times during the day when the session goes live. And that's it.
love it. So yeah, like I said, this is straightforward. John, do you have any comments on anything we've looked at so far?
Let me know how I can make this better, please.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I would just tag up on what you guys said. Sometimes do see people maybe try to make the delivery side a little more complicated, but really, the simpler you can keep that part, the less confusing it is for your members, and then it allows you to then focus on the thing that kind of really matters, which is the marketing and the actual content side of it. So, we're a technology company, but we recognize that you kind of want the technology to sort of disappear into the background, and you want to keep it as simple as possible. So really what I was thinking when you guys were talking is just tagging up on that idea. The simpler you can make this side of it, the better. And then I would just say, maybe for our audience, not necessarily everybody knows that you can do what you did with Elementor inside of the CourseCure container,
Right.
which is really nice because you can still keep all of the elements of tracking and all of that stuff, but you can kind of build that actual lesson exactly how you want in a page builder, whether it's Elementor, Gutenberg,
Let's
whatever.
actually show that. That's a great idea. I think the only setting that I changed was inside Elementor, I toggled it for the lessons. So that brings up Elementor available for those lessons. And then I probably need to do this for the courses and the modules too, to refine it a little bit. Because one thing I think that is lacking, you'll find I'm very, very self-critical, is it could look nicer. It's not the best experience for people. So when I build these membership areas for summits, I always worry, how do I make it the easiest to use? That's why I have back to course right here. That's why I have the breadcrumbs right here. I have an overview here, the comments over there. So you would be surprised how difficult some people find to navigate membership areas. And that's why I also have this very simple layout. There's no complex design going on because it's impossible to miss those icons. And I hope it's impossible to miss the download buttons right here. And then when the other bonuses are ready, I throw them in the column here in the right-hand side where there's so much empty space. And I just try to make the information that I want to provide as easy to be available as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And that's actually another good point I do want to touch on. It doesn't matter if you're selling courses, virtual summits, whatever it is. When it comes to the navigation, you want to give multiple options for that. And so I see that you've already done it here. A lot of that's built into CourseCure too. But even if you're using a different system for that, you want to have different navigation options because, like you said, if you have one next lesson or mark complete button, then it's like people could miss it. And then, they're like, worst case, they close out of the site and then they kind of just forget about it, which is sadly what happens. Yeah. I think the course completion rate overall, it's really low, online courses. So, but this is, I think this is pretty straightforward. And so each day here, I see that you're using the tabs. And so you've grouped those. And so you have, people can kind of navigate through them. Do these unlock each day or do they get, I would assume like on day one, they can only see day one, right?
Yeah, there's a difference between the membership area and the live content on the website because the live content, for example, doesn't come with the MP3 download.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't come with the bonuses that will be embedded here in the membership area. So what I'm doing is, again, it's no rocket science. I duplicate the layouts, and you might call me lazy for doing this, but I duplicate the layouts. I add a different navigation. And this will look terribly familiar.
Yeah.
A video and the text and some nice, I hope nicely designed headlines and the transcript and no bonuses, but therefore there's a call to action to upgrade to the All Access Pass so that people can enroll in the membership area. And this is what goes live on day one when Dennis's session goes live, and then I have deadline funnel on this page, which is it's just a fancy countdown timer that when day one is over, this page cannot be accessed anymore, and you cannot trick deadline funnel as far as I know. Like when you have an Elementor based countdown timer, you reset the system time, or you delete cookies or something like that, and then you restart it. It doesn't happen with deadline funnel. And then I just guide people through the days on the live content.
And for those who are wondering too, is Deadline Funnel, is that a plugin or is that like a tool that you embed? Okay,
it's a paid plugin.
Okay.
I have a partner link for that. I think it's partner VSM. Yeah, that gives you a double trial. So if you want, we can share that as well.
Sure.
So that people have more time to roll it out. It's $99 a month afterwards. So it is quite expensive, but for me, it's a worthy investment.
Makes sense. So really cool. And thank you for sharing as well how you're doing it live. Obviously, he has the upsell. And you know, we're picking apart this stuff, and I hope everyone watching is getting value. Jan teaches this through his Virtual Summit Mastery program, and I'll let him talk about that a little bit here at the end. But you know, we're not going to be able to explain everything in just this one video here. But but thank you for being so open and just sharing all this with us. So
absolutely
awesome. So I guess the one question that I have, and maybe there's some other stuff that you want to talk about, but when you're doing like live streams, how does that actually work? Like, how do you embed that into the website?
Brilliant question. Let me pull up the live page, and let's hope it's something that I can actually show and it's not completely broken. Because at the time of recording, we are like 2.5 weeks out from the summit, and I'm still building this page. So when somebody joins the summit at the live time, it will all look pretty and beautiful. Essentially, what I do is I embed a YouTube live stream on a page that has a Slack/live, so that as I have multiple live streams, I have multiple webinars and workshops on the summit every single day. Usually, I just have to update that embedded live stream, but the URL doesn't change for the attendees. And I just I keep the replays on the page, but they go down the page, and I add the most up-to-date live stream on top of everything.
Right.
So that people can catch the replays and see the most recent one on the same page. And the reason I'm doing this is because in the emails that you send out during the summit, reminding people that the live stream starts or that day 2 is here and you can access ABCDE session, that you want to make it as easy as possible for them. So sending them something like live/day 1, live/day 2 confuses the heck out of people.
Yeah.
And I'd rather join through that hoop myself.
That's a really good tip. So you're literally just embedding that YouTube live stream right in here. So
I'm setting them up in StreamYard, streaming from StreamYard to YouTube, maybe at the time for the summit, maybe Riverside.fm to YouTube if it decides to work, and then embed the YouTube live stream and the YouTube live comments right here on this page.
Cool. So I guess just anything that you're doing that you want to share that maybe is unique, any unique plugins, tools that you're maybe using that somebody watching, you know, building this with Wishlist that they might want to use or take advantage of. Like you already kind of showed us the deadline funnel. And I think that was really cool.
Deadline funnel is quite an important piece in this puzzle. One thing that I would want to emphasize is how important the email campaigns are that go with the virtual summit. So let me see if I can pull that up on a different screen, or if there's too much sensitive data in the email campaigns that go out right now. But essentially what you want to have is you want to have an onboarding sequence that goes out when somebody signs up as a free attendee, starting, let's say, 6 weeks out for the summit. You want to have obviously the confirmation email. Then what I do 4 hours after the confirmation email is sent, I'm sending out a separate email saying, hey, just following up on the ticket that I sent you. Is everything okay? Did you get the email? Do you have any questions? And just try to get as many replies as possible to warm up the deliverability and to get into conversations with the attendees and to learn what they expect from my event, so that I can tailor the experience in any last minute changes if needed to the virtual summit.
So for everyone listening, Jan is just dishing out tons of gold nuggets here because he's talking about warming up the email list. It's super important. And again, I mean, we can't cover everything in here, but you need to do that. You need to send them these emails and hopefully get them to engage or reply. That's the best thing. At least click a link. And so he's showing us right here his email system, and I'm going to ask him some questions. But yeah, if you want to walk us through kind of how you have it set up.
Absolutely. So ignore the numbers right now. They're 10x easily when the summit was live. Essentially, somebody signs up on that opt-in form that we saw on the registration page. That goes into my account at Convertkit, which is my tool of choice right now for email marketing. They get added with a tag that says action LBS3 registration. And I preface all the tags just for myself internally so that I know somebody performed an action. When I have somebody click a link to a podcast, I say interest and then the podcast topic where that episode was about, just for me internally. One golden nugget that I would love to share is this tag, event currently being promoted. What you don't want to have is, let's say you send an email every week. Somebody signs up 5 weeks before your course launch starts or before the virtual summit starts. They go into a dedicated campaign to warm them up for this specific event. You don't want them to get the regular email newsletter because that would be conflicting information and you would confuse people. So when I send out my almost daily email newsletter, I exclude everybody who has this tag just to keep the messaging on point.
Right. Yeah, no, sorry. And so that's, again, wonderful tip there. And I know you're using Convertkit. Does it really matter, though? I mean, it doesn't really matter which system people are using. Why did you kind of settle on Convertkit? I'm just curious.
I would actually argue it does from my experience, and that's an unpopular opinion. But I think that there are features when you're building a summit delivery campaign that you desperately need to have. One thing that Convertkit added just a few weeks ago is that you can make people jump in an automation to a specific date. And I had that when I used ActiveCampaign beforehand. I had some issues with ActiveCampaign and then moved to Convertkit and everything was fine. But one thing I was missing was this feature to make people jump to a specific day. And the way what you want to do is somebody signs up, and at this point, you update a custom field with the start date of the summit. And then what you could do in ActiveCampaign is, okay, you set a goal in the automation where all the emails are scheduled, and you say, okay, now check this custom field. And if it's 5 days before the date in the field, you send them the email that is supposed to go out 5 days before the summit, and you make them skip all the 20 emails you had beforehand.
I see.
So that you cater to the time-sensitive messaging as needed. And thankfully, Convertkit finally did this. So now I can do things like, I'm not going to save this, but in the event, now they have date occurs. And now I can say, okay, that's now 5 days out of list building school. What do they desperately need to know? And what are the emails that they can skip about? Wow. That's one thing you need to have.
Yeah, okay, very cool. And thank you for saying that. So it does matter. I think that you can probably do workarounds in other systems, but since it's built in here, that's very powerful. Yeah. And one thing I'll say too, because we kind of touched on at the beginning, is that, you know, some people may not be so technical. I've looked at Convertkit, I've used it a little bit. I know it's really easy to use, like very user friendly compared to things like ActiveCampaign, which are just a little more advanced, you know, and
it took me like 3 weeks to learn ActiveCampaign, and I'm a developer.
Well, we use Infusionsoft and Keep, and that's even more of a beast to figure out. But so really cool. And is there anything else, I guess, on the email side that you want to talk about?
No, I think that's really it. Then what you do is one thing that I can't show you because it's one of the perks of my course. Sure. But what I can walk you through in theory is that when the summit starts and day one of the summit starts, for example, you send out an email in the morning time, and then you send out an email to the unopens in the afternoon. so that you get people who maybe missed the first email or they didn't have time to respond and to check it and to see which session go live. You send out 2 emails per day, but one only goes to the unopens. That's really, really important. And there's some other fancy stuff, but that is too deep, I think, for the context of this webinar.
Yeah, for sure. So that's really powerful stuff there. What would you say is one of the challenges that you had building this site, or I guess I'll leave it open-ended.
Actually, Course Cure and Wishlist are very, very straightforward. So maybe one thing we can go through before we cut it off, because I've just checked and we are already chatting for like 45 minutes or something like that. One thing that I would love to show is just the setup of Wishlist member and Course Cure and show people what it is that I'm doing. So I have a simple level called All Access Pass Holder. There's no global access granted because I want to control that to just the course. I have no registration options enabled here because I want people to just buy the product and then get added through ThriveCard and not set up their accounts on some form on the on the website. I want them to confirm their email. That's really important to me. It's probably redundant because ThriveCard already takes care of that.
Right.
But I really like to know that I have actually humans in my course.
Sure.
I've set up custom redirects after registration and after the login to take them to the course overview page where they can see all the modules and all the lessons. And I've set up the email notifications and just tweaked them to my wording, to my branding. Yeah, anything you want to touch on? Any big mistakes I made?
Well, I was going to jump in and just say that what you'll notice as he's going through that is just because there's an option there doesn't mean you have to use it, which sometimes we can see. And so he only used exactly what was relevant to his particular situation. And that's kind of always been a recommendation we have, is as a light a touch as possible when it comes to this kind of thing, because it just makes it easier for you. And then of course it's going to, if you understand it and it's easier for you, it's going to be easier for your customers, and that just leads to a better overall outcome. So I really liked, as you're going through that, how you were explaining that you didn't use this and you didn't use that, because that's really important point, is the things you don't use that you could.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of streamlining things. And one interview with Tim Ferriss I heard ages ago that stuck with me. He said that when he feels overwhelmed, he asks himself, what if this was easy? And I just try to go that route most of the time. It doesn't always work, but most of the time it does. This is Course Cure. And essentially what I've just done in here is I have set up one course because I only have one type of ticket that I sell. Right. If I had like a VIP option, or if I had some extended offer, some virtual summit hosts actually sell high ticket directly on the summit. So that would probably be a second course for a mentoring program or coaching or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, as we've seen on the front end, the modules are grouped in days, and then each speaker gets his own lesson. The access is limited to the All Access Pass holders. I don't want people to have a preview, and it's not a linear course. You can just go through it as you want. There's no like drip feeding or something like that.
Gotcha.
I have the comments enabled. I don't use course categories. I don't use difficulties because I just have one. And as you said, why overcomplicate stuff?
Yeah.
Then there's featured images. I'm not too happy with this cover image, but something is there. So that's another thing of mine that I've learned is progress trumps perfection. So I'd rather use that and update that post-event and focus on the things that move the event forward than getting hung up with this cover image that maybe 200 people see in the end.
Minimum viable. That's what we always say in here. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And then there are some of the bonuses that will be displayed as resources for the course. So that's where, for example, the templates could go.
Okay.
I'm not having any testimonials yet, but when the summit goes into an evergreen mode, so people can sign up for the summit even after it ended, they get 5 days of free access to the sessions in a drip feeding format using Deadline Funnel. And then throughout those 5 days, I pitch them on this course. that's the time when this testimonials will be shown on the course page. And then I hide all the author information, because if they don't know me by upgrading to the course and going through the lessons, then I can help them, frankly.
Oh man. Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
that's it.
Jan, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all this with us, showing us how you're using Wishlist and CourseCure to run these virtual summits, and then a lot of the insights behind that, which had nothing to do with Wishlist necessarily, but just provided value to people. So as we kind of wrap things up, just to ask you, is there any piece of advice that you want to kind of close things out with for someone that's wanting to run a virtual summit with Wishlist and CourseCure, just anything like that?
So first of all, don't worry about the tech, because Wishlist and CourseCure are, first of all, easy to use, like stupid easy, and they are very well documented. And that's one thing that I've come to rely on over and over again. When I decided on what feature do I want, what feature don't I want, I just looked it up on the website. And if in doubt, you can submit a support ticket and you get a qualified answer. In terms of running a summit overall, keep it as easy as possible. Don't start with 100 speakers on the first event if you don't know what you're doing and if you're not prepared for a messy process. And just be curious about the topic and think about how you can make it a great event for the attendees. And then the monetary aspects will handle themselves. If the attendees are happy, you will be happy as the host, and the speakers will be happy too.
I love that. That's our whole business philosophy too. It's like we succeed when our customers do and they have received value. So I'm glad that you share that mindset. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk with us for almost an hour now. We had some technical difficulties at the beginning, but we worked through them. And I think you've outdone yourself sharing all these different things. If somebody wants to learn more, either about list building course or virtual summit, we'll put links below and so they can access them. Any final thoughts, Jan?
I just appreciate the effort that you put into educating the community and constantly developing the plugins. It's a pleasure to use them.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's our pleasure to try to serve everybody in a small way. So, all right. Well, thank you, Jan, and take care.